Today, I will be summarizing from the book Larceny in the Heart, chapters 13, 14, and 15. Chapter 13 is titled Why Humanism is Socialistic. Sin is a very prominent thing in the world today, and we often choose how to define what sin is in our own words. In the Bible, God lays out what sin is with the Ten Commandments. Meanwhile, the government has its own definition of sin, and their definition is in many large books with laws. Christianity is not the religion full of sin. It is Satist humanism. These people define sin as when someone is cheated out of the best possible situation for their life, such as if they do not get the best education, or if they do not have the best personal appearance. This is because these people believe you deserve the best. So spend money on the best, otherwise you are living in sin. Point is, we define sin in the terms of our own standards, but Scripture makes it very clear that God's law, which is eternal and unchanging, should define what sin is. Rushdoony goes on to explain that humanism does not change any man. It just makes things legal, illegal, and makes people feel guilty for sinning, which makes them resort to more sin. Socialism is a branch of humanism because humanism holds the authority to define sin at will. With economics, our purchases are defined by the humanistic state, which would create bad economics. We must obey God's eternal law and not give into the socialist state of humanism. Chapter 14 is titled The Curse of Bad Religion. The government is constantly trying to better the lives of citizens, but in all reality, the state is acting as God. Still, the state is working to prevent people from sinning by removing all forms of competition out of the market. Rushdoony describes it perfectly on page 90, stating it, which means government here, seeks to eliminate sin by eliminating freedom. Basically, humans are incapable of living without sin on their own, and someone without sin needs to rule over them so they can live without sin and follow their command. Men love to believe that they are not the problem of sin in the world, and instead someone else has created the sin in the world. No one wanted to take the blame for the first sin because Adam blamed Eve when he was confronted by God. Consequently, Eve blamed the snake when God confronted her. Finally, the snake, Satan, could not blame anyone. Otherwise, the blame may have gone on forever. In the same way, politicians believe that the sin on their terms is because of others, not them. Bad religion is the root of all sin. Chapter 15 of Larceny in the Heart is titled Sin and Perfection. Rushdoony begins this chapter by explaining how the word perfect had different meanings 2 times in history. In these cases, perfect meant mature instead of sinless. Eden was a sinless place, but it was not a perfect place because Adam had to endure many trials during his time in the garden. Adam had no tools or experience, and Rushdoony describes it as a poverty in paradise. Throw Eve into the mix, and Adam had a predicament on his hands. So, Satan came along with a solution that would eliminate any imperfections Adam and Eve faced in the garden. Satan promised that they would see like God if they ate of the fruit. We know the rest of the story, and sin had entered the world. Economics pursues a perfect state, just like Adam and Eve did in the garden. Full employment, high GDP, a good stock market, and a high consumption are all things that would create a perfect economy. But they try to accomplish this by their own means instead of God's will. In the attempt to move towards perfection, we eventually bring sin into the world and move ourselves further away from the perfection we are seeking.